What was that juicy hometown high school rumor that turned out to be true? Everyone was always talking about how the pre-calculus teacher and the algebra teacher were screwing around. They were both married, but students would see them smiling at each other, even kissing in the halls. Turns out, they were married to each other. She had just kept her maiden name. I didn't find out till a few years later when I saw him on Facebook. And I'm pretty sure they knew about the rumors and specifically said nothing to dispel them for grins and giggles. That a 7th grader was bringing vodka in a water bottle and would drink it throughout the day. Turns out he brought 5 and got alcohol poisoning and had to be rushed to the hospital. I ultimately really feel bad for this kid. How bad does your life have to feel if you insist on getting blackout drunk while in school? Either he was that desperate for attention, or some serious stuff was happening badly in his life. I have heard of similar issues with kids using mouthwash to get drunk too. Sad, sad deal. Don't do this, everyone. That the head high school principal was screwing a cheerleader and her mom while his wife was pregnant. He was asked to resign. He left and became the superintendent of another county. That the vice principal was cheating on his terminally ill wife with a cheerleading coach. It was true, and everybody knew it. He got promoted to principal and moved his office to the conference room in the library. Conveniently and simultaneously, the cheerleading coach became the librarian. That the biology teacher hated the principal so much that he repeatedly set the class tarantula loose to sway her away from visiting his part of the school. Well, it's not considered harassment by tarantula if it's part of the lesson plan to the students. Okay, class, for today's lesson we are going to practice our tarantula recovery skills. Grab your safety glasses, gloves, and a net, and let's get to work. I bet tarantulas need exercise just like everybody else, too. When I was 12 or 13, a girl and a boy from my class stopped going to school for some days. As silly kids as we were, we started joking that they were getting together to make babies and ended up missing the classes. The boy was just sick. The girl was actually pregnant. That the theater kids would use a woman's bathroom in the theater to do it. Turned out it was true. When a teacher walked in on a couple going at it on the sink, they ended up locking the theater bathrooms during the day and only opened them for performances. It sucked because those bathrooms were nicer and quieter than the other ones. There was a rumor that our AP economics teacher was having an affair with a married AP US history teacher. Rumor only grew steam when she filed for divorce just before graduation. 2 years after I graduate, my friend, who worked at a daycare, texted me a picture of the two of them dropping off her 2 kids. Yeah, one would think that divorce is a pretty good clue. And how fun that the 2 teachers have a similar topic that they can now discuss during their pillow talk. They can discuss Adam Smith, the Great Recession of 2008-2009, and voodoo economics. It's the romance story of the century. There were rumors that a mystery kid was pooping in the janitor's closet. Everyone thought it was a stupid rumor until the principal made an announcement about it. And they never caught the kid. But a few years later, I found out who it was. And it turned out to be a friend of mine. I wasn't shocked. This kid was strange. You could get him to do anything, and he would do it. He once ate part of a dissected frog on a dare, and another time he almost chugged the bleach. But the teacher stopped him. That the girl in my class had a sister a year older who had been locked in a closet since she was 5 years old. Turned out to be true, and mom and dad went to prison. The girl was mentally handicapped, and they just decided to lock her in the closet and only let her out to clean the closet. She ate in there and defecated in a bucket. The super smart girl who got into all the top schools was so depressed at an Ivy League school because she was no longer the smartest person and had to drop out after 1 semester. It was a big deal because she scored an almost perfect SAT score and was the first in our high school to go there. I feel like this is probably a lot more common than people think. Maybe not to the point of dropping out of a once-in-a-lifetime Ivy League school, but I guess some people handle rejection better than others. This is always a danger of going from a small town where everyone knows you and your accomplishments to going to a university where all of a sudden your accomplishments are pretty average. A guy in my high school did it in a McDonald's bathroom and stuck it up the wrong hole, causing the girl to bleed everywhere. It wasn't really much of a rumor since he confirmed that about 2 days after it went around for the year. The head cheerleader, who would literally go down on any football player, had a pregnancy scare, failed 12th grade English, and then moved to a different county to not face the shame of being the only member of the senior class not to graduate. When my boyfriend was in high school, there was a sub there who was subbing while finishing college, whose mom had been a teacher at the school for years. This girl eventually ends up doing half the football team and has pictures of her tits going around. They let her resign instead of pressing charges. I'm assuming because of her mom being there for so long and because some of the students were actually of age. So, a couple weeks ago, we hired a new attorney at the law firm I work for, and it's her. Well, given her past behavior, we all know how this woman got hired at the law firm. I mean, sure, she probably had to pass the bar exam, blah, 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 but now she has the experience she needs to climb the corporate ladder and make partner in no time. She just has to bang out the details. This has probably happened in a bunch of places. There was a gym teacher who was really invested in his students when we were in middle school. Middle school was kind of the phase where we never really knew who was out to get us, but most of us thought the gym teacher was. He was smiling an astonishing amount of the time, and even when we were in the locker room getting undressed and dressed. Many of us found it unnerving and a bit creepy, and there were many rumors going around that he was gay and into younger boys. Well, it turns out that in my final year of middle school, he got fired even after years of teaching, and everyone knew why he was fired. Well, we were wrong though, since there was a twist. He actually had been touching a female classmate inappropriately, and many of us thought he was going to be fired for something like that, at least a little. But I don't think a single one of us thought that it would be for touching a girl. He sure proved us wrong. That a freshman girl popped her cherry with the wide part of a shampoo bottle? She took pictures and sent said pictures to a group of guys in the sophomore class, telling them to keep it private. Everyone saw and she wound up transferring. Why? I mean, why? I hope this girl found the right path in life. I mean, what could possibly compel you to, one, use a shampoo bottle, and two, then share the whole experience, including pictures, to a bunch of teenage boys? Are they supposed to be impressed? I don't think the boys all huddled around were all like, "Ooh, did you see that girl handle that shampoo bottle? She can get it." Poor troubled soul. People thought our vice principal was banging one of the security officers. Eventually, we found out he left his wife and they started dating. So that was true. Another rumor was that people suspected that our resource officer was a pothead. For anyone that doesn't know, our resource officer is an actual police officer with the city and not a regular security guard. Well, my buddy is a recovering drug addict, and he apparently was selling weed to the officer back in high school. Not many people knew that about that one, though. We were all at band camp, and it was rumored that one of the girls in my class, 17 or so at the time, was pregnant. I laughed at the idea when I heard it. I mean, sure, she had a big baggy shirt on each day, but despite all the jokes, band camp is generally tough on the body. 10+ hours of marching each day, plus hours of music practice. She'd have to be far enough along that she'd know that submitting herself to that kind of exertion in the heat for a week was a bad idea. Well, she left camp early, and both her and her baby nearly died from what she put herself through. He was premature and had all sorts of problems, but thankfully, it turned out okay. The school and teachers tried to cover up the pregnancy because her mom was rather influential. Yeah, that's a good idea, school staff. Hide a major life event and near death of a student from her mother. It's brilliant, and I'm sure there will be zero consequences when the mother finds out. You think she was upset about the pregnancy? Imagine how upset she's going to be at you guys now. Like, you'll be hearing from my attorneys type, I'm sure. I had always heard this rumor that the new principal at my elementary school was fired because he was caught banging the third grade teacher. To be fair, she was smoking hot, which was super awkward because she became our language arts teacher and 6th through 8th teacher. So she went from having these sweet little kids to a bunch of preteens staring at her massive tits. Anyways, I just found out 2 days ago it was true. And that was why her husband divorced her and is now married to a former Brazilian cop who is just as hot. A middle school math teacher slept with the high school baseball coach so that he would put her son on the varsity team instead of the freshman baseball team. Everyone found out. Her and her husband almost got a divorce when he found out, and apparently they worked through it and are still together. My high school once canceled lunch one day because we dang near had a riot after 8 fights broke out. I was on a field trip with 100 other students, and my high school had a total of like 200 to 300, and we were all getting texts from our friends on the bus. So, wait, were these riots about the horrible conditions of the lunch food? Why cancel lunch? I mean, if you have a bunch of fights breaking out in the school, the last thing you want to do is take away food from hungry hormonal teenagers. This is just common sense, people. This will no doubt only anger the masses more. Or maybe the fighting started during the lunches due to a dispute over the taco bar.